The following episode of Dad vs. Daughter was made possible by a contribution from Asmodee. Dice Forge from Libelid and Asmodee is a game where we are going to be forging dice. We're going to be going on heroic feats, we're going to be making offerings, and those things are going to be able to allow us to forge better die faces on our dice. We're going to pop off the old ones, we're going to put the new ones on, we're going to be getting more gold, more resources, and most importantly, more glory points, because whoever has the most glory points at the end of the game is going to be the winner. So let's find out how to play the game, and then we're going to share our thoughts with Dad and his lunch group on what we think of Dice Forge. I have the game set up for 4 players, and I'm using the introductory cards. And the way I know that this is the introductory is you see on the back of the card there is a little blue dot. So that means that this is these are the basic cards. Now the game comes with a bunch of other cards. So after you get your first few games under your belt and you're very familiar with it, then you can swap out, mix and match, do what you want. So the youngest player, according to the rule book, is first player, and they get this rather ghostly looking first player marker with this skull. Looks like it's floating in blue flame. And they get a player board of their color or their choice. So I've got this guy here. Now this is how you're going to track all of your resources: your gold, your sun shards, your moon shards, and your glory points, because whoever has the most glory points at the end of the game is going to win. You'll get these little translucent cubes that will mark your progress along the board, and you'll have one of those for each one of these spots. You also have a spot for your dice, because this is a game where we are going to be forging dice. So you can see our dice here. Now these are really cool because these dice faces are removable. They pop off just like Legos. And you'll see that the back of it, it's usually not this difficult. There we go. The back of it looks very similar to a Lego, and they just easily pop on. So on your turn, you're going to be rolling these 2 dice. Now the dice are not identical. They're very close to start off with. Most of them have 1 gold. This one contains or has a 1 moon shard, and this one has a sun shard. There is also one that will grant you 2 victory points. So during your setup, all players are going to roll their dice in order to get a divine blessing to start the game. Also, based on turn order, you are going to get a variable amount of gold to start with. So once setup is complete, all players are then going to roll their dice to get a divine blessing, and then they will collect those resources. So for instance, if I rolled this, I would get 1 gold and 1 sun shard. And then I would move that marker on my player board to indicate how many of those that I have. Then the active player is going to get to do one of 2 things. They can either go on a heroic quest, which means they could go down onto this island area, move their pawn, and buy one of these cards based on the resources. Now the cost for those cards are listed along the side right here. So you can see these are 1s, this costs 2, that 3, 4, 5, 6. This actually, and those are all sun shards. This one actually cost 5 sun shards and 5 moon shards. And then over here you have the moon shards. So those cost 1, that costs 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The other thing that they can do if they don't do a heroic feat is they can make an offering to the gods. Now what that means is they are going to get a new die face to add to their dice. So let me show you. I know it's not in frame on the camera, but you have this nice little die face holder that's going to go on top of the box at the end of the board. And I'll just show you right there. See, there's the board up there, or the box, I mean. So this would be sitting on top of the box. So you're going to be spending gold in order to get these new die faces. Now you can only purchase whatever you can afford, so you can break it down. Like these all cost 2, these are 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 12. Now these are special ones down here at the bottom, and I'll talk about those in a minute. So let's say that I had 5 gold and I wanted to make an offering here, I could spend 2 and buy one of these faces, and then 3 and buy one of these faces, or I could spend all 5 and buy this up here. There's no limit to the number that you can buy, only based on the amount of gold that you have. Now these special ones at the bottom come into play when you have those heroic feat cards. Now, for instance, this here, the one with the question marks on them, if you look down here, if I have this card, then I would be able to take one of those die faces and forge it to my die. These other ones are, for the most part, on some of the other cards that are not part of the introductory game, except for this ×3, and you'll notice that one is right there. Now, if the active player would like to spend 2 of their sun shards, and you'll notice there's a little indicator right there, then they can actually perform another action. So let's say that they performed one of the heroic feats as their first action. They could spend 2 sun shards and then make an offering and spend gold in order to buy new die faces to forge onto their dice. Or they could perform a second heroic feat, but they're only allowed 1 extra action per turn, regardless of how many sun shards that they have to spend. Once the active player has completed their turn, then play proceeds clockwise to the next player, and they're going to be able to do the same thing. Every player is going to roll their dice again in order to get a divine blessing, and then they will take those resources, and then they'll put their die faces face up on their card. It's important to do that and make sure that you don't fiddle with your dice, because there are cards that will allow players to use die faces from other players' dice. So it's always a good habit to just put them on your player board and not fidget with them. When play comes back around to the player that has the first player marker, then that completes the end of the round. You would then move this round marker to the next spot. Now, depending on the number of players that you have, you'll play various rounds. So the most you would ever play would be up to 10 rounds. I'm not going to go over what every card does because, like I said, there's more cards in the box that you can mix and match on your other games. But know that when you go to an island to do a heroic feat, some of these cards are going to give you ongoing effects, like the Master here will allow you to spend 3 gold and get 4 victory points once per turn. Others are one-offs that have an immediate effect, like this guy. He will give you 3 gold and 3 moon shards, but that's it, just a one-off. This guy here, for instance, will give you your choice of either a gold, a moon, or a sun shard as well. And then the rest of these are very similar to that. Like I had pointed out before, he's going to give you a die face. This guy over here will give you a die face. Some of them, like the Hydra here, will only give you victory points at the end of the game. So he's worth 26 points, which is not too shabby. Others, like the Forge up here and the chest, they are going to give you additional cards to match up with your player board. So when I take the Forge card here, you'll notice that it shows that it's got this little track on there, because if you flip this over, you can see you have an additional gold track. So most of the time on your player board, you are only going to be able to store 12 gold. But when you place this here, instead of accumulating more gold, you'll see how that lines up. You can move a marker along here, and then if you get to the end, the first time you go through, you're going to get 10 victory points. If you do it again, you're going to get 15. So that's a really nice thing to have, and it comes with this neat little hammer token that you can put on there to track how much gold you have. This card here is the blacksmith's chest, and what that's going to do is allow you to get an extension board to put on the end of your player board here. So you'll notice that there's a little notch there, so that'll fit together. So now, instead of only being able to accumulate 12 gold, you'll be able to accumulate up to 14. Your sun shards, you'll be able to go up to 9, as well as your moon shards. Now, let's say, for instance, that the green player is on this island and it is the blue player's turn, and they wish to go to this island as well. They can easily do that, but what they'll do is they'll take their pawn and they'll place it there. They'll send that other pawn back to the portal, but that player now is going to be able to receive a divine blessing. So they're going to be able to roll their dice and get more resources. So sometimes that's a good thing because you may be in a place where people are really wanting to go, and every time they knock you back, they're going to give you basically a chance to roll your dice and get more resources. So that's always kind of a good thing. The other thing I want to point out is that based on the player count, the amount of cards that are in each stack are going to vary. So since I have this set up for a 4-player game, there are 4 cards there. But once all these cards have been taken, then there's no other cards left to go, or there's no other cards left to take. So you would not be able to get any other benefits by going there unless the cards on the other side of that island were available. So that's a high level overview on how to play Dice Forge. So now let's get to what Dad and his lunch group think of this game. If you've played Dice Forge before, it will probably come as no surprise that uh, my lunch group loves this game. It plays fast. We can easily get it in during our lunchtime. There's really not much downtime. Everybody's active on their turn by rolling their dice and getting resources. The game can be a little cutthroat because there are only a limited number of cards. So in a 4-player game with only 4 cards in a stack, if you want to keep getting those cards, then other players either need to react to that or decide that they're not going to go down that path. There is one card, and that card I will show you gives you this pig dice face. Now, so what this does is you actually take the card, but you give that die face to another player, and they have to forge that onto their die face, whichever one's showing after their roll. So that's really kind of a take that element in the game, because if they have something really good that comes up on their die faces, they have to place that on one of the 2 dice. So I have used that probably more than anybody else that I know. It's very much kind of a dirty thing to play in the game, and I have been called many things, but it's a lot of fun when people roll that die. They cannot decline to do it. And the other thing that's really good is these can never be removed. So once they're on your opponent's dice, they're there for the rest of the game. Now, one of the strategies that I like to employ when I do that is I kind of pick on the person that I had put the first pig face on anyway. And if that comes up, then a lot of times I'll go and I'll grab that other die face or card so that I can give them another one. So now they've got not only 2, but they don't have a choice. They have to get rid of, that other possibly good die face that came up on their roll. So my group pretty much is in aligned with what I'm thinking on this. Like I had mentioned, the game plays fast. It's really a lot of fun. There's not really a lot of decisions to make. It's going to be, you've got a certain number of resources that you're going to deal with. So you kind of play your own game unless you're trying to be spiteful, like I had just mentioned with those pig faces. But you're pretty much trying to forge your dice in order to get the maximum amount of points that you can. There's many ways that you can go about doing that. You can go by collecting the cards, because at the end of the game too, these cards are going to be worth victory points. So do you go for the high cards? Do you go for the cards that are going to give you ongoing benefits? There's a lot of different ways. And then with the extra cards that come with the game that you can mix and match, swap them out, there is tons of replayability. We have not gotten bored with this game. The fact that there are so many of these die faces that you can get, it does get a little hairy sometimes, because if somebody's really collecting a lot of gold and they start buying up a lot of these, then it's kind of one of the cases where if you snooze, you lose. But you can see that there are some of these, these give you 3, 4, 6 gold. So you can really get a good gold engine running, especially if you get the hammer card and you're able to run through that. You run through it, both times and you're going to get 25 points, you could go back and get another one of these and do the same thing. So many different strategies on the road to victory there. I've actually been blessed. I've won probably a majority of the games that I have played, but like I said, I kind of have a reputation when I play, so the guys are liable to shut me down the next time that we play this. But component wise, the components are really good. Nice thick cardboard for the player boards. These little cubes that you get in order to place on your board to track your resources, those are really nice, and they're in the player colors. The die faces really do pop off, fairly easy, and you can mix and match those without any issue there. The artwork is interesting. I don't have anything against it, but some of the cards actually do look kind of neat. The box insert, there's a whole thing, and if you saw my unboxing, because the box is set up with the insert, there actually is instructions on how to put the box back so that everything kind of fits in its own place. So you can see all these little steps here, and then I'll show you the box itself. So you can see there's all these different slots for you to put things. There's slots for your dice. There are some other tokens based on the other cards that you may get. I actually took those out and put them in a baggie because underneath the player boards there's this big deep well. So I found that just transporting it around, sometimes these things pop out, and I didn't want to lose them and have them get under the insert, so I just put them in a plastic baggie so that they don't roll around. But that's no big deal there. I don't really have many negatives with the game because, like I said, it plays fast. It's real easy. You're rolling your dice. You're getting your resources. You're doing either heroic feat or you're making an offering. And that's about it. Not much else to say. It's highly recommended. We really like this game. It is one of Dad's top games of 2017. So, and the price point on this is ridiculous. I mean, the amount of quality that they put in for the components is awesome compared to the amount of the cost. I think this MSRP is for like $40, and for everything that you get, the components are all top notch. I mean, that is a really good bargain. So if you don't have it, you might want to check it out. But that is Dice Forge, and we will catch you guys next time. I had talked about the number of different strategies that you can employ. I mean, based on the die faces that you can forge onto your die, you can really do a lot of different things. Like I said, if you like to go the route I do and basically, use kind of like the pig strategy, that's cool too. But you can, have your gold engine really going. Like I said, there's plenty of ways that you can get a lot of gold on your turn. There's all these different ways that you can get additional moon shards. And then another way is you could even go the victory point route. So you can see every time you'd roll this, you would get 3 victory points. Here you would get 4. Here you'd have a choice and get more victory points, the same as up using those. So a lot of different options when forging your dice. Yeah, here's my one thing I wanted to mention that I had forgotten. The game actually comes with this little sleeve that fits over the dice tray so that you don't lose all of those faces. And it comes with this little bungee cord in order to keep it in place. So it slides nice and easy in there. And I've not had any issues with the die faces coming off of there. So a nice little addition. So definitely a thumbs up on the production quality of the game there. If you would like to support us, you can visit patreon.com/dadvdaughter.
Like and follow us on Facebook to stay current on our show schedule, sneak peeks at future shows, and to interact with us.